What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Jenks Island Podcast, the only NFL podcast where you get your takes from a washed-up Division III cornerback and his friends. I'm your host, Grayson Jenkins, joined again by my great friend and co-host, Sterb. And in today's episode, we're going to be breaking down our RB tiers for the upcoming 2026 season. We won't be doing this necessarily for fantasy, but we're going to be doing kind of who we think are the best running backs in the league. Should these players be replaced? That'll be kind of like the bottom tiers are like replaceable starters, things like that. In the top list are going to be like those all pros, players that we just think are the cream of the crop for their position. Stir, before we get into this, what are your kind of valuations? Like, do you value age, size? What do you value when you're really looking at a running back talent for this kind of tier ranking?
Yeah, so similar to our other tier rankings, I'm kind of trying to project like a little bit forward because we are, we're in the off season right now. So I'm kind of trying to value where players are going to be at going into next season rather than, just a descriptive ranking of where they were, because that's more statistically driven. So like running back age is definitely something I take into account. Like if a guy is coming off of a really good year and he's, older, I'm probably going to not look at him quite the same as like a running back coming off the same season at a much younger age. And then for this list specifically, like you mentioned, because we're not ranking for fantasy here, we're ranking for real life. You'll probably see some of the more like heavier runners like towards the top of my list. Whereas like some of the pass catchers that, some people deem as elite, probably just like a little less valuable in real life because you can pass the ball to other players. But you are racking up those fantasy points, whether you're playing half PPR, or whatever. So in real life, I do, I wouldn't say I naturally skew towards a non-pass catching running back, but it's not something that matters as much as if you're, putting a player in your fantasy lineup. So
yeah, I think that's fair, 100%. And we'll do like our RB and all of our fantasy rankings later on in the offseason when we get towards fantasy season. But yeah, I agree with you there. I think, like you said, when you have a pass catching back, he's going to be getting you those fantasy points, especially in PPR, but it's just not really as valuable when you're a team looking to build out a running back room. Like you kind of want a guy that can do both, or one runner and one more of a receiving back as well, just because it gives you more balance. But also you want to rely on those guys that can get you those yardage on the run every single time. So starting off, we got Bijan Robinson here. Sturb, what are your thoughts on Bijan and where would you have him? Is he going to be in that F tier or where would you have him?
Yeah, definitely in the F tier, bottom of F tier, like would be replacing this guy every chance I could get. No, obviously, Bijan, I think head and shoulders best running back in the league. He makes negative plays into positive plays consistently. And the one knock on him that, haters could have said before this past season was that he doesn't really have those home run plays. He had a lot of home run plays this year. I remember it was either this year or last year. I said like he's probably going to be a 2,300 yard from scrimmage guy, and that's exactly what happened this past year. I've loved this guy ever since he's come out in the draft. Kind of just like a bulletproof running back one in the NFL for me. There's some arguments. He's not the best at everything in the league. Like I do think, home run ability, there's some other guys I would put above him for sure. But this guy, like pretty much everything, he's at least a B+ or an A- at. And it's just, I don't know. There's not many holes you can poke in him. So he's by far the number one running back in the NFL for me.
Yeah, he's single-handedly, you're a defense. You have to put so much on to worrying about him that it frees up their passing game a whole lot. And they didn't have like great quarterback play last season. They were still able to have a decent passing offense just because defenses have to worry so much about Bijan. If you just, take a couple plays off and you're not worried about the run, like you just said, he's not the greatest home run hitter in the league, but we've seen him do it where he will just find a gap and he'll be free. And I think, who was it against last year? We had it was an 88-yard or 92-yard touchdown run. I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember. It was right before the half. I think it was a Thursday night game.
Yeah, it was a prime time game.
Might have been the Bills game. Might have been the Bills game, but I'm not entirely sure.
Let's see. 93 yards. Oh, it was against the Rams. It was the Rams where they
okay. Gotcha.
They beat the Rams think they beat him in that one.
That was a fantasy championship game. I remember that.
Yeah, they went up.
There's
like
another
20.
one like middle of the year where I think it was like an 80-yard touchdown right before the half. I can't remember who it was against, but yeah, like I said, like that home running playability. Like I understand that people hadn't seen it before last year, but you can kind of tell it's going to be there. Like this guy forces more missed tackles than pretty much anyone in the NFL. I think it's by a lot. And you know, he obviously has the speed to hit a home run. We saw that this past year. Again, not the by far fastest running back in the NFL, but can definitely do it. So
yeah, and when you're looking at a guy like this, I mean, like you said, yeah, you're not going to see a lot of home runs because NFL teams, with the Falcons being the way they are, they're not too worried about they're more worried about him than they are the pass game. Even though the Falcons have weapons, he is just such a threat. You really got to load the box and worry about him more than anything else. So moving on from Bijan, probably the top guy, if not top 3 guy in the NFL. Moving on to Devon Achane here. I'm going to put him, I think he's more of an A tier guy. I think he's up there. I wouldn't put him in S tier, even though he is so explosive. His durability issues kind of concern me a little bit, as well as, and I think he's not the most physical runner. I think he relies a little bit more on, speed, shiftiness, which is all fair because he's getting you like 5 yards a carry. Let me double check that. I want to say he's up to, 5 yards a carry, exact 5.7 yards per carry. So he's going to get you yards every time you give him the ball. But I want a little bit more physicality from a running back. Still an A tier guy, can be used in the pass game as well. He's the future for this offense for Miami. They kept him for a reason. They're going to rebuild around him. They didn't trade him for a reason. He is the guy for them. Just want to see him be a little bit more durable, consistent in that phase of being available. And I think he'll be, a top 10 guy for years to come, if not top 5. What are your thoughts on that, Sterb?
Yeah, maybe this is a bit unfair of him because it's hard to kind of view him in the lens outside of his situation. Whereas like you mentioned that they're building the offense around this guy, and maybe I would look at it a bit differently if he was like, on the Rams or the Niners or something like that. But I just don't necessarily want to build the entire plane out of Devon Achane if he's a 190-pound running back. I get that he's like crazy efficient. And this is one of the guys where like his fantasy value is probably a little higher than his real life value to me.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, like he's not like a super downhill runner. So like with those soft tissue concerns, maybe he experiences an age curve that is, starts a little earlier than other running backs. But yeah, I think I had him 7 on my list. Yeah. So I think he's definitely fair to put in that A tier. I don't think he really belongs in the tier with Bijan. So this is kind of where I put him in here. It kind of sounds like I'm ragging on him. Like he's obviously an awesome player. Like you said, 5.7 yards a carry. That's pretty insane. And these 2 running backs are probably the best 2 or among the best 3 receiving running backs in the NFL. Like we talk about running backs who quote unquote could play receiver. That is much less frequently correct than people would like to believe. Like in terms of yards per route run, there are not running backs that even come close to like a Wan'Dale Robinson on their routes where they're lined up outside. These 2 guys, I think, probably could do it. They could probably be like a Wan'Dale Robinson level receiver, as well as being like a very good running back, which is, it's a low bar for a receiver, but when it's not your position, like if you can take a Wan'Dale Robinson yards per route run on top of being Bijan Robinson or Devon Achane as a running back, like you take that every single day of the week. Yeah. So super valuable, but yeah, he's pretty solidified in that A tier for me.
Yeah, and we bring up the durability issues, and he's still, like, the last 2 years he was pretty healthy. I think he played 16 games both seasons. But I'm still a little bit like, I don't know, the soft tissue injuries when like you said, he's a little bit more of a lighter guy, and he's, not the, like, I don't want to say tough because he's tough. I think he's a tough player, but Like you said, not most powerful runner. So just a little bit worried about, durability there, but he's so talented. So yeah, he's going to be in that A tier for sure. Moving on, the next Achane on the list, and by that I mean Travis Etienne. Sterb, what are your thoughts on Travis here?
Yeah, I think he's been, fairly up and down in his career. I feel like since I've started following football, this is probably the least consensus that I've seen on a running back like ever. It flip flops on him pretty much like every 6 weeks. I remember the end of that 2023 season, he was like a top 3 running back in fantasy, and he was just absolutely murdering the league. And then 2024, kind of meh, like pretty disappointing. This past year, I think it was really, really good. We talked about Liam Cohen a decent amount on this podcast. I think he's one of the best run game designers in the NFL. So like a guy that's, definitely has shown that home run hitting ability. He's pretty good in between the tackles as well. A bit of a lighter guy, like not really going to run through your face. But he's shown to be more situationally dependent than, the guys that I would put in an A or S tier. So I think he would slide in right at that B tier for me. Maybe he's towards the bottom of the B tier. We'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, I think he's a, solid RB1. I'm excited to have him on my team. So can't really complain if this guy is the RB1 on your team. Because if he's the RB1 on your team and your situation is good, then you're happy with the situation. If you're mad at him, it's probably because the situation is bad, in which case you should be mad at the situation, not at Etienne. So
yeah, no, I 100% agree with you here. I would have had him in the B tier as well. I think, like you said, he's not the most powerful guy, but his cutting ability is very, very above average, I would say. And I would say that he provides a little bit in both the run and the pass game to give you a little bit of a dual threat. Kellen Moore is going to use him a lot. So we'll talk about him in the fantasy range. I think he'd be a little bit higher up in the fantasy tiers, but just because he's going to be used more, I think this season. But yeah, I think the B tier, I don't see him as an S or A tier guy where he's just your bell cow. You can do whatever you want with him, but I think he's still a good running back. So B tier for him as well, in my opinion. I would have Breece Hall, our next running back here. I would put him. It's tough. Yeah, just his situation alone has limited his ability of being able to really show off how talented he is. So you might disagree with me here. I would have him at like the bottom of the A tier because I really do love Breece Hall.
That's fine. I mean, I probably would have put him like top of B tier. I think him and Etienne were a couple ranks apart on my list. It mainly is like the injuries and the situation with Breece.
Yeah, it's tough.
Both of which are, injuries to a certain degree are within a player's control. But situation really isn't. Like if he got traded to the Chiefs last year for that 3rd round pick or whatever the Jets were asking for that the Chiefs weren't willing to give up, I think it was a 3rd, maybe a 2nd. We'd probably be talking about him in like a similar range of like Kenneth Walker right now. But it didn't happen. So I mean, he gets a massive Jets tax for me. But yeah, I think I'd have him. I think I'd have him like top of B tier. He's kind of like one of those tweener guys where he's shown flashes of being like, is he teetering on S tier? And there have been long stretches where you kind of just don't know what he's capable of because of his situation. Like under different circumstances, could he be playing towards that S tier? Could he be playing down towards the C tier? It's kind of really hard to tell. And we talk about this a lot with running backs. It's like probably the most dependent on other circumstances position in the NFL. So it is really hard to kind of separate a guy from his situation. But there are scenarios where, you can look at it and be like, okay, his situation is obviously bad. But
no, for Breece, it's just tough because when you're playing the Jets as an opposing team, they were behind in so many games so quickly. You kind of lose going away from the run game, and the passing game wasn't good. Garrett Wilson was out for the second half of the season, and so they were kind of screwed on that front of they could just load the box. They weren't too worried about any of the receivers. They weren't too worried about the quarterbacks the Jets had either. And so it was just kind of Breece Hall had to beat every single team by himself. And you just can't really
Yeah.
see a whole lot from a running back in that situation. But this year, I think they added a little bit to that offense, few weapons, quarterback play could be better. I mean, Geno Smith, we've seen, has been all over the place the last few years of what he
Yeah.
can be as a quarterback. So Breece Hall, I think, is extremely talented. Depending on how many guys we add to this A tier, I could be fine moving him to the top of B tier, like you said. I just think he's kind of in that range there. Moving on, we got Bucky Irving as the next running back. Sir, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is interesting. Probably had one of the weirdest running back seasons I can remember last year.
Mhm.
I think it was his shoulder that he hurt early in the season and kind of just like, I believe had some mental health stuff going on. The rehab physically wasn't going that well. It's tough to say because like the end of his rookie season was so good, but I do think a lot of that was run game design. But he also showed he flashed the ability to be like pretty much a workhorse running back and be
Yeah.
pretty efficient in that role. We do see that pretty often in small sample sizes with guys. So I don't know. I think he's shown less than everyone that we've ranked so far, along with the injury concern. So I would probably put him in C tier. And could he move up? Yeah, for sure. But
He's
that
an
like,
unknown.
yeah, he is more of an unknown than probably everyone we've ranked.
Mhm.
Just because, showed half of a rookie year and then really kind of like a weird meatball last season. Like
Yeah.
what is this? Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays out this year, but I wouldn't say that I'm like super confident that he's just going to get back to that um, position and efficiency that he was at the second half of his rookie year. Yeah, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you here. I think when you look at someone like this, especially when the running back in the running back discussion, like you've said, we've seen in small sample sizes, guys play really well and we kind of expect it from them. And then it just never really shows up again. I'm not saying that will happen with Bucky because I do think he is talented. But like you said, last year he was kind of injured. We haven't really seen anything from him for, the second half of the season going into this season. So he's an unknown. So I think the C tier is I think, a very fair spot for him. I have no arguments here. But we are going to get hate. I know the Bucky truthers are going to be out there.
Yeah, that was you. You had him
In the
above
comments.
Bijan 2 years ago
Hey man,
or a year
I
ago.
bought into the small sample size. I was the same guy that probably bought like James Robinson shares in all my fantasy teams at
Yeah,
the end of drafts. So, and we've
yeah.
seen how that went. Now he's balling out for the Louisville Kings, I believe, in the UFL. So
Shout out.
shout out to him. But yeah, it was bad. Anyways, moving on, we have DeAndre Swift for the Bears. He's a guy that I think was very efficient for the Bears when called upon this past season. Can part of that be due to Ben Johnson, being able to scheme him up more than we've seen in the past seasons? I think that's definitely possible. I think he can do a little bit for you both in the run and the pass game. He's a guy that can, he has a few runs every single year. Well, he'll make a few guys miss, break a few tackles, and then he'll have other plays where he gets stuffed pretty easily at the line. DeAndre's a guy, I'd probably have him in the C tier here, right below Bucky. But I do think that DeAndre Swift is a 100% like a serviceable running back one. And for fantasy, I think he's good because he's in that Ben Johnson offense. But I would put him in the C tier right below Bucky. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he'd kind of be teetering right on that C and D tier range for me. I'm kind of fine with both, and then if we want to readjust at the end,
Yeah.
but yeah, he has shown to be like pretty situationally dependent. If if he's set up in a good efficient offense, like I feel pretty confident that he can not like necessarily have a high success rate, but his explosive plays can definitely make up for what he lacks on a down to down basis, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like you said, he does rip off some of those explosive runs, but then you see, obviously the big knock with him is vision concerns, and I don't think those have fully been developed yet to a point
Mhm.
where you want to see from like a solidified running back one on an NFL offense. But he definitely did show some strides last season, and it definitely does help having that Bears offense around him, with it being so talented, and with Ben Johnson coming in. Obviously, he's played with him before, But yeah, it's just a guy that if he was transported to another situation, like I don't really know how it would look. But yeah, maybe like C. Yeah, I think like end of C, maybe top of D. We'll have to
Mhm.
see how the
Yeah, how
rest of
many
the
more?
guys shake out.
Yeah.
But he's like right on that edge for me.
Yeah, and I will say, like, going into last season, I think fantasy-wise, I was kind of like, "Yeah, this is the guy you should get in fantasy in the late rounds," just because Ben Johnson came over. You have all these
Yeah.
people still doubting DeAndre Swift as a player, but situationally, like, it was such a great situation for him, and we'll talk about that when we get back into the fantasy groove of things. A similar guy here, Sturb, in my eyes, kind of just guys that were kind of, you know, doubted going into last season, kind of played well due to their situations. What are your thoughts on Javonte Williams here?
Yeah, this is another guy kind of in the same mold,
Mhm.
minus the, kind of swap out the explosive plays for a higher success rate. Javonte has shown an ability to, play through contact more than DeAndre Swift as well. Like they're
Yep.
kind of different styles of runners, but probably in similar tiers, if that makes sense. So it's an interesting contrast there.
Yeah.
This is another guy that probably maybe I want to put him top of D because I think he's probably in a better overall offense than DeAndre Swift was last year. I think a worse play caller. Not saying anything on Shoddy there, but compared to Ben Johnson, I do think I would take Ben Johnson. But yeah, I think it's interesting because I think a lot of other running backs would do just as good, if not better, in that Cowboys
Mhm.
offense. Just because you have so many weapons that you have to account for. Offensive
Yeah.
line is obviously pretty good. Dak, the two wide receivers, and then you are playing from favorable game scripts most of the time, so you're going to get a lot of opportunities on offense. When we're talking about like volume stats and fantasy stats, like Javonte is a guy that plays himself out of this D tier. But in terms of like on the field performance, like who would I rather have? He'd probably slide in a D tier for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I have him and DeAndre Swift kind of as the very interchangeable pieces and just different runners, like you said, but I think skill-wise, they're at the same level and they can kind of provide your offense with like a similar spark, if that makes sense.
Right.
Just kind of similar guys. Moving on here to David Montgomery. He's the first guy that I'm considering putting into the F tier as a starter, as a RB1. I'd put him at the bottom of D at this moment in time. I'd put him in F maybe, like at the top of F, depending on kind of how this tier fills out. David Montgomery, as good of a power runner as he is, when I'm looking for an RB1, I want a guy that can hit a home run every once in a while. And we've seen it, like we saw it last year. He gets tired on long runs, kind of slows down a little bit. He will give you all of the juice in the world that you can ask for. He's a guy that goes balls to the wall every single play, can power through guys, but he's not very shifty. He doesn't provide a whole lot in the pass game as a receiver, and I just think I don't know, I want a little bit more from my running back if I'm looking for RB1 to be my guy, and I think when you look at the Texans this upcoming season, it'll kind of be a split backfield, I imagine, with him and Woody Marks, and neither of them I think are gonna be like the true bell cow where they're gonna get at least 150 more touches than one another, but I think David Montgomery is at least serviceable, so I'd put him in the D tier because it's not like immediate replacement worthy. I would say that would be kind of my F tier. So I'd have him at the bottom of D. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I have him at bottom of D too. It kind of just feels like you bring in a guy to hit a whole bunch of singles for you.
Mhm.
It's interesting because I do have a different take on what the Texans backfield is going to look like. I think it's going to be probably like 70 to 75% David Montgomery
Okay.
rather than a split.
Yeah.
Woody Marks last year, like he had a lot of volume and counting stats, but like he really was pretty bad from an efficiency standpoint.
He wasn't great. Yeah.
Like yeah, like obviously a part of that is the offensive line, um,
It's so
but
bad.
it is that whole run game is just like pretty much a dumpster fire. And bringing
Yeah.
in a guy like David Montgomery and kind of retooling your offensive line is definitely the right thing to do.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it kind of just feels like you're bringing in a guy that's maybe pretty good in the short term, but like the Texans aren't going into next year being like, okay, we don't need a running back in the draft. Like,
Yeah,
if a good
they're
one
still
falls to
looking.
us, we're not drafting him. Like, you know, he's good, but another guy who is older at this point. So maybe we see a bit of a decline from him this year.
Mhm.
That age is enough to put him, one or two slots lower at least, in my mind. But yeah, it's low floor, or sorry, high floor, low ceiling sort of running back.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Moving on to another offensive line dumpster fire that we saw this past season. We got the Raiders running back Ashton Jeanty. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Ashton Jeanty, when he was given the opportunity to show anything at all, like when his offensive line, by the grace of God, showed any sort of blocking prowess at all, he was awesome.
Yeah.
And mostly with these running back prospects that we deem as, like can't miss guys, we're normally right. Whereas like we see with other positions, like I don't know, QB, edge, we see busts all the time. Running back, we really don't see that very often. And just watching Jeanty last year, like his missed tackles forced pretty high. His yards before and after contact is pretty comical to look at. I'm not going to lie. But it kind of just feels like this is like the pinnacle of what we were talking about, where it's hard to remove a running back from a situation, but like in extreme cases, you can obviously tell that this guy is so much better than that. Like for me, I think I would slot him in above Brees in the A tier.
Yep.
So I think that's a fair spot to put him at. And with running backs, we see that like even like small changes to their situation, it doesn't even have to be like a super huge change, like Saquon going from the Giants to the Eagles or whatever. Or if like you kind of bring up the baseline of like the worst characteristic that they had to deal with, they can just show that much more level of play, or level of output and efficiency. So I think we're probably going to see a step up from that, just bringing in some more competency into the Raiders organization this year. So I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. But this is a guy that I think is underrated as a receiver as well. Like
Definitely.
he's very, very good as a receiver. And mainly people just look at like the contact balance and the force missed tackles running through someone's face. They're like, oh, that guy can't be a receiver. Like for that archetype, he might be the best receiving power back.
Yeah. And it's his like builds too, gets his build plays it. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, we talk about this for fantasy as well. Like the number one edge I think you can have is being like a heavier pass catching running back. Those guys in terms of like cohorts that outperform their expectations in fantasy, it's pretty much as good as you can get. Like you look at like Cam Skattebo, Alvin Kamara is like a bigger receiving back, Ashton Jeanty, like these guys consistently outperform their expectations in fantasy because you're heavier, so you're more prone to get first down work.
Yep.
First and second down work. And then if you can catch passes as well, it kind of your archetype as a running back lends itself to being on the field the most. It's another reason why I like Jonah Coleman for fantasy this year. But anyways, kind of got on a tangent there. Ashton Jeanty is awesome. I think he belongs in A tier. So
yeah, that is the exact spot I would have had him as well in between those two players. I love Ashton Jeanty. Unfortunately, I was playing him in fantasy that week against the Texans where he finally kind of showed up against a good defense and had, I think it was a wheel route, 60-yard touchdown. That pissed me off. I was so upset playing that game because I was like, here, Ashton Jeanty finally decided to really, really show up, and the Raiders started to actually use him more to his ability. And he's going to be so good when they finally get a good offensive line set up. And Kubiak, we as Saints fans, we know that Kubiak is going to run the hell out of the football. Like it's going to happen, and he's going to play to his abilities. I think he's going to truly see Jeanty for what he is, use him correctly. And I think when you have a young quarterback or Kirk Cousins, they're going to rely on him too. And they'll figure out the receiver situation. They'll get other weapons in the building so that there is a little bit more taken off him. You still have Bowers over there,
Mhm.
but I think they'll kind of figure that out more as it goes, and he'll become better and better throughout his career. He's still super young, and yeah, I think the A tier is 100% right for him. Moving on, we have J.K. Dobbins. Sorry, Ty. He is the first guy going in my F tier. Durability concerns they just bother me, and when he is called upon, he's solid. I think he's a solid running back, but I'm not going to spend too much time on J.K. Dobbins because we have so many guys to go through. But I think J.K. is the first guy to go in that F tier because I think he is just replaceable in my eyes, especially in this Broncos scheme. I think there are better all of the guys on this list I would have over him. David Montgomery maybe would be the only guy, but the durability concerns truly just make JK an F for me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just durability and age. Like when he's on the field, I really do like watching JK play, and he's
Yeah.
been shown to be very efficient. Even like stepping in for other running backs when they're just not cutting it or not getting a high enough success rate, you can just put JK Dobbins in, and it's pretty much going to be better, more buttoned up. And if you can guarantee me, like if he was 2 years younger, and you could guarantee me like a clean bill of health, I think you'd be
fully
firmly
healthy.
out of this tier. But it's just kind of where we are at this point. Like he's shown an ability to not be healthy at all.
Yeah, you got to feel
And he
for
is
him.
older. So like I feel for him because I do like him as a guy. I do like him as a player. Fun watch, but I think he belongs in the F tier, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ty.
Moving on, you got a fun one here. Christian McCaffrey, an older player who just had a insane season on both running as a runner and as a receiver. So we kind of talked, you mentioned earlier, players that could be a receiver at the running back position. What are your thoughts on Christian McCaffrey here?
Yeah. I think he could play receiver. Talking about those guys that, could be like a Wendell Robinson level. I really have no idea where to rank him because
This is tough.
it's
He's
pretty
older.
much just Russian roulette on if he's going to be healthy each year. Man, it's tough. I really don't know. I think he belongs in the A tier, but where he slots in, I think I would take him above Brees. I don't know if I would take him above Achane, above Jeanty, or behind Jeanty. Man, I really don't know because he was the entire offense at points for San Francisco.
Yeah.
And a lot of that rushing volume that he got was a little bit misinterpreted, I feel. Whereas like he wasn't the same level of efficient runner that he was in previous years. And even going back, you have to go back like 2 years to when he was that runner. So it could have just been like injury decline, or it could have just been like, okay, we're giving him so much volume that, we can take a little bit of the dip on efficiency because we're dealing with injuries and stuff. It's just kind of really hard to interpret. But like looking at the guys, the three guys above him that you just put him under, I do think they're better runners than him. Whether they're better overall players, I don't really know. And also like the injuries are obviously a very big concern with Christian McCaffrey. So yeah.
Especially after a year where he was used so much at this age, that is terrifying. It is a terrifying aspect because if you look at his stats and just his career, almost like after his 2 seasons with the Panthers, his first 2, he got up to 287 carries, then didn't get above 100. Then back to 159, 272, then done only 50 the next year. 311 rushing attempts in addition to however many receptions and targets he had. I mean, just an absurd amount of usage at his age with so many soft tissue injuries in his past. It's scary. It is genuinely scary, especially we're not talking about fantasy here, but if I'm a fantasy owner, I can't with good faith draft him. Just maybe you are. It's a lottery ticket. Who knows? But I think this is a spot for him as far as talent goes, just because he's a little bit older than these 3 guys, and all 3 of these guys provide you with so much possibility and boom ability, and they haven't been as I mean, Devon and Chan, we talked about possible durability issues, but they're not proven. Whereas Christian McCaffrey's issues with injuries are they're there, and I can't ignore that. So I like the spot where you have him, but it's just he's a wild card. I really, like you said, it's tough to rank him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, where you rank him is purely just like risk tolerance. We mentioned this going into last year, or if it's like we gave this advice that if you're in one league, like I am not drafting Christian McCaffrey. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
like, I'm probably doing that punishment in that league, and then my whole season could just go awry. But if I'm in like 15 leagues already, and my 16th league is going on, and I'm not going to really pay attention to it unless I'm winning, then yeah, I'm more prone to take Christian McCaffrey. So it is just like all risk tolerance where you're willing to put him like among this A tier.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, with the punishment, like if you have a terrible punishment, I'm not taking Christian McCaffrey. If you have, like, oh, you have to go to Waffle House and eat a few waffles, like maybe I'm taking Christian. Maybe I'm willing to do that, but yeah. Anyways, moving on. Of course, you get Christian, and I get Tony Pollard. The second F tier running back is here, and then put him below JK. I think Tony Pollard has had flashes here and there throughout his career. He's a serviceable starter. I mean, he'll get the job done. He'll get you a few yards of carry if you want to, but he's not anything flashy. He's not the best home run hitter, and he's easily replaceable. So I'm really just not the biggest fan of Tony Pollard, and I think J.K. Dobbins is a better player when he's healthy. So I'll put J.K. or Tony there and just kind of deal with it. But what are your thoughts, Sterb?
Yeah, I mean, the big caveat is when he's healthy, which I would kind of give the lean to Tony there, but I'm not like I'm not going to die on that hill. Like I do think he belongs in this tier. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Tony Pollard fan. I never really have been. But maybe this year with Cam Ward and they added some weapons in the receiver room, maybe, that run game becomes a little bit more opened up. Maybe he gets, maybe he looks better this year. Maybe he's a better player, but yeah, not the biggest fan. Chase Brown, Sterb, is our next running back here. What are your thoughts on him? We all know, anyone that's listening to the podcast knows that I am a Chase Brown truther. This is my guy. That's more fantasy, though, than it is actual talent and things like that. So let me hear your thoughts on him. Where would you put him?
Yeah, I mean, I do think he is like the pinnacle of replaceable at running back, like a veteran fantasy sort of guy. I know you're shaking your head right now. But when you deal, it's kind of like that same thing that we talked about with Javonte. Like obviously the two offenses are no stranger to being mirrored to one another. When you have to worry about so much on the offense, and then Chase Brown can kind of just run up the middle, not really make anyone miss for like 6 yards of carry. I'm sorry, it's just more replaceable than an Ashton Jeanty getting 6 yards in a different way. I do think he's a pretty good receiving back. Like he's kind of just meh at everything. He is kind of like, okay, being able to handle volume in itself is a skill. I don't want to just like say like, oh yeah, you can just give any running back volume and they'll maintain some sort of efficiency. But it's not as much of a skill as it's made out to be, especially when you're naturally looking at these players from like a fantasy lens, because obviously in fantasy you want volume. You don't really care about, if one player breaks off a 20-yard run, you don't care about his 20 yards per carry in that game. But I do think he is just kind of mad everything. Like I don't think he has really an elite trait or even like an A- trait, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like his cut ability is pretty limited. His missed tackle force ability, in terms of like contact balance is okay. I'd say that's probably his best trait. But he uses also like smaller. He's not very quick. His vision is pretty good. I'll give him that. But it's not like he has the physical attributes to really make the most of his vision either. Like I said, with that limited cutting ability. So I don't really know where I'd put him. I don't know. I think he's pretty firmly below Bucky. I don't know if I'd probably put him below Swift.
That's where I was gonna say.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. No,
This
like
is this is lower. This is lower than the public would have him. Just so you know, the public would probably have him a little below Etienne.
I think it's fair. I think if we're going fantasy, I think Chase Brown is an A tier fantasy running back. But when you look at his true ability as a runner alone,
He's really just not that good.
it
He's really not that
takes
good.
a hit for sure. I think you see so many fantasy points come from goal line touches and goal line receptions as well, and they're force feeding him receptions to end the season. And that's why I had him as a league winner last year as a fantasy running back, just because I knew they were going to feed him goal line touches. They're going to feed him receptions no matter what. And you're just feeding and farming points for basically nothing. Like so I will say I think Chase Brown has ability, and I think he's
Nothing
solid.
is the big part there.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a solid player, and that's why he's in the C tier, right? Like he's a solid running back. He's definitely serviceable. But I mean, if you had any of these guys in the Bengals offense that are ranked above him, Swift is the only one that I would really kind of teeter maybe against. But if you had any of these guys in the Bengals offense, they're doing the same thing, if not more. So
And looking at it now too, like maybe like him and Javonte are pretty much the same guy in terms of like how good of a player they are. I think maybe they're closer. I guess Chase Brown's just shown it for longer.
yeah.
Whereas like Javonte's shown some pretty poor level play at times. But in terms of just like last year, you look at the players that they were, they're very, very similar. But yeah, I think it is just like a sample size thing with Javonte, him being down in that D tier. Now that I talk it out, but yeah.
And if Chase Brown comes out this season and truly does have like a great running season, I think that's kind of where you look at maybe we're overlooking him as a runner, but I think there is truly a lot of it. Like you said, there's so much else to worry about for this Bengals team. You're more worried about the pass game. You're kind of giving him a cushion in the run game. And then just in the end zone or in the red zone, he's just feasts on goal line touches and swing or out routes as a running back.
Yeah, I mean, just watch how many times he cuts during the game. It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The amount of times he does not change direction when you feel like he should, and still kind of benefits from it. But I digress.
Moving on to Jaylen Warren here. I'd put him in the D tier above David Montgomery because I think he is a little bit more shifty than David Montgomery as a runner. I think we've seen him make more out of less at times than David Montgomery. I think they're both still more reliant on their power. I think he is a little bit more of a balance, what's it called, contact balance ability than David Montgomery, but they're both still pretty good in that area. Jaylen Warren is a guy that I think is overlooked consensus wise as a runner because I think he is very serviceable and I think he'll be solid for the Steelers this year. But I think you could replace him with a better running back. All these guys above him are better, and I think he's still decent. Like I'm just not. I don't know how to say more than he's just solid. He's a solid running back. He has a lot of fun runs. Like we've seen him attempt crazy hurdles, crazy jukes, and make really crazy plays, highlight plays. But all in all, like on a play-to-play basis and as an average season, I'd put him in that D tier. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that kind of just perfectly encapsulates my feelings about him. Like he is very solid, but I mean, you wouldn't say no to like a Travis Etienne on your team if you have Jaylen Warren in the backfield. Like he's a good player, but there are better options out there.
And he's older than I think a lot of people know that I want to say he's like 27 or 28 already. Let me double check.
He is also like a super underrated receiver as well. Like I do think he moves very, very well. It kind of just he is like physically capped out. Like I don't really see like another gear for him to hit as a player.
Yeah, there's no more leveling up. No more leveling up for him. But moving on to Travion Henderson, Sterb. What are your thoughts here? I know you are a big Travion fan.
I'm not actually.
You're not? You have a fantasy. I swear you were like,
I do have a fantasy.
You were holding out on the fantasy value. You were trying to sell high, maybe.
No, I was fully trying to trade him up until he had that 3 touchdown game, and then I was like,
oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
I'm gonna hold.
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm really not a big fan of Trevion in real life. I don't think you can give him the same volume that you can with other running backs. He has some really really frustrating moments, and a big thing with him was supposed to be like he was supposed to be the best pass protection back in this previous draft, and he was pretty much unplayable on passing downs, which is kind of a big surprise. Like you don't think of pass pro as in running back scouting as something that can have that much variability from the college to the NFL, especially
Yeah.
playing at Ohio State. But like there are just like a lot of mental lapses with him, and obviously he has that home run hitting ability. That's probably top 5 at that specific trait in the NFL. But there's just so much things between the margins that the Patriots, I think, rightfully did not trust him with and went to Ramondre over him for. Like I said, it's just that down to down consistency. The maturity. Like you see him pretty much want to bounce everything, and I get that because that's how you're going to hit the home runs.
Yeah.
But if that's kind of not that he's a one trick pony, but if it's I don't know, a best trick pony or whatever, and you're constantly leaning towards that one best trick, then you are actively taking away from what could be more efficient parts of the offense when you're running the ball. And as a receiver, I think he was a little worse than a lot of people expected coming into this year as well. So, like I said, I think he gets a lot of flack for, or not a lot of flack. I think he gets a lot of credit for having this well-rounded skill set when I don't necessarily believe that. So like lower success rate, obviously higher explosive play rate, but the other parts of the game, he's just like not super well-rounded yet. And I did see a bit of that scouting him at Ohio State. Like obviously these home run hitting guys, like the big knock on them is like, oh, you can't give them full workload, but there's more to that. There's more to that there with Trevion Henderson. I don't really know where I would rank him. He's a really, really tough guy to rank because like obviously if you put him in like a same tier as like Javonte, like in fantasy, probably an easier click for Javonte than Trevion. But in terms of like upside, they're very, very different. I don't know. I think I would put him in D tier. Like where he currently is, I don't know. I think he's below Jalen Warren. I don't know if he's above or below David Montgomery.
Yeah,
So I'll kind of defer to you on that. But
I would have put him kind of in the same spot as David Montgomery. Like I think they are relatively equal as players. I not necessarily in terms of skill sets. Their skill sets are different, but yeah, I think
completely different. But
I'd put him there just because he's younger. But I think reality is he's just right next to David Montgomery one way or another. Moving on to Zach Charbonnet here. I got stuck on the Charb part. I think Zach he's a tough one for me. I think he's very talented, and he provides. I think he provides you with some spark at times. I think the majority of people are much higher than him than he is for whatever reason. I don't understand that.
It's just fantasy.
Yeah, I'd put him in the F tier if I'm being honest. I'd put him above the two guys there just because he's younger. I think that's really
that's where I would have been too.
That's really it. But I don't know. Zach Charbonnet, I think I had a bump on, but just because in Madden I got destroyed by Zach Charbonnet a couple of times, and that pissed me off. And now I'm like I give him some credit, but yeah.
If you're getting smoked by Zach Charbonnet in Madden, you got to look yourself in the mirror, bro. I'm sorry.
Zach Charbonnet hurdled like 4 players on one play when I was playing Hammer one time, and I lost my shit because I'm like, what is going on?
Ain't no way he does that in real life.
It pissed me off. But yeah, I think Zach Charbonnet is in this F tier. I'm excited to see what Jadarian Price does for them. I think we'll talk about him in a little bit, but I think that's kind of the future. You're not banking on Zach Charbonnet to be your future running back by any means. So are your thoughts on Cam Skattebo? We'll move on from Zach, because you said you agreed here. I don't want to put too much on that when we have 30 more guys to go. So what are your thoughts on Cam Skattebo?
Yeah, Cam Skattebo obviously played pretty damn good last season. Very efficient. He's like that big pass catcher that we talk about. That's super good for fantasy. But coming off the injury, I don't really know where to rank him. Like, obviously, he had like huge blow up games last year, and pretty consistent down to down runner. It's just like I really don't know what to do with Cam Skattebo.
Yeah.
Because I am concerned about coming off that injury. I'm also concerned about the Giants situation as a whole. It's probably a bit of a hot take, but I don't really know where I'd put him individually as a player, because like his top end traits are so much better than guys ranked around him would be. Like his receiving ability and his contact balance for where we're probably going to rank him, like, are going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
But cutting ability, speed, not really there. But I don't know. Where would you put him? Where would you put him?
I'd have him at the bottom of C, maybe below or below like Javonte.
I would take him above Chase Brown.
I think that's fair, but I think he might have C, and I do not wish this on anyone. Like I genuinely, like I hope he changes his play style at times, because he could have CTE by the end of year 2. Like just the way him and Dart both play, like just very reckless. That's my take, is that I think the injury concerns scare me that much that I'd have him there. But like you said, yeah, I think he's a more talented player than Chase Brown. But
yeah, I mean, yeah.
So it's just I'll let you rank him, but that's kind of where I would be.
I think I would put him above Chase Brown.
Okay.
If you want to take your boy over him, I understand it. Well, not really, but I would put him right there. Okay. Yeah, I think I'd put him below Swift. And could he outplay Swift next year? Yeah, absolutely. Like it wouldn't really surprise me that much. But like I said, injury concerns, play style, not super conducive to long-term success. But yeah.
Chuba Hubbard is next, and he's a guy that I genuinely just I don't know. Like I don't know Chuba Hubbard, because he's either injured or the Panthers have him and they're not really using him more than enough for me to kind of determine my skills, where I would rank him. And then he also fumbles the ball in clutch moments at times. And then I don't know for Chuba. Sterb, I'm thinking bottom of D, top of F for Chuba.
I think I go top of F.
Top of F. Okay. I wasn't sure if I was like being too harsh on him. And no, this isn't just Saints bias. I think that he could be solid at times. He's a solid running back.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not depending on him.
His ceiling is just solid. But like we've seen his volume get poached by guys over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And we've seen his incumbents be more efficient than him. Obviously, we saw what happened with Rico Dowdle last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Chuba's just like kind of just like a worse version of David Montgomery, like the David Montgomery play, in my opinion, where it's like you want like to hit singles over and over again for your offense. But like you said, Chuba kind of less consistent in a way, and also like less elite traits than like a David Montgomery as well. So
moving on, we have Jordan Mason Sterb. This is a guy that I think I'm higher on than a lot of people. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting guy to rank, because I do feel like he kind of is in that perfect role for him, whereas like Aaron Jones is like a very good complementary runner to him, being like more of an outside guy, more of a pass catcher. Jordan Mason is kind of just, like gap runs, get downhill, get the yards that are blocked for you. I don't really know where I'd rank him. I don't think he belongs in the F tier.
Yeah,
I'd probably put him right above Trevion. Yeah, because I think he's a really good runner, but he is more limited in what he does on like an individual play basis, where he can't really make the same cuts as like a Jalen Warren, for example.
Yeah, I would have put him on either sides of Warren. I really don't mind either way you kind of went with that. I think he's gonna have a solid season this year, and I think especially when we get into fantasy season, I think he's a guy that will be overlooked in most situations. He's a guy that I will be drafting late rounds if he falls to me anywhere. So moving on to Omarion Hampton here. I really don't know where to put Omarion just because of the Chargers offensive line situation and injuries for him this past season. He looked really good when they were, when the team was healthy and he was healthy. He looked solid. I'd put him below, I think, Scat at this current point in time, just because I really don't know. Because I think I want to see another year from him with a healthy O-line. He's honestly just a question mark. I'd put like a separate tier of question mark. I'd really don't. I'd put him below Scat. What are your thoughts on him? I genuinely do not know.
Yeah, I'm fairly high on Hampton. He's one of those guys that at UNC, like we saw him catch passes, but we weren't sure if that was going to be the role for him at the NFL level. When he caught passes for the Chargers last year, he was I'm not going to lie, he looked like a demon. And like you said, he is a bit of a question mark, but I was super high on this guy as a prospect. Obviously didn't have him the same tier as Jeanty, but like I said previously, going into that draft, I would have been comfortable taking him at, I think he went at 21. That's probably around where I would have taken him. This guy, you can give him a full workload. His contact balance is really good. His cutting ability could do, a bit of work, but he has that level of contact balance where it doesn't really matter that he doesn't have like elite cutting ability. Vision is really good. Like I said, pass catching, I thought was going to be pretty solid, pretty underrated, but it actually ended up being even better than I thought it would be. For me, I would put him at least above Etienne. And really? I might have considered him like bottom of A tier. I do expect, and we're kind of trying to rank independent of situation here, but I do think like he's going to be allowed to show the level of player that he is. It's kind of tough to think of like a historical comp for him because I do think he has that home run hitting ability. He has the receiving ability as well. He's kind of like, in my mind, I guess he's like a Diet Coke version of like Saquon. And like I said, Diet Coke version, where, he's big, contact balance, can kind of hit every sort of run. I think Saquon is obviously a better mover and a little better in each of those key aspects. But like we've seen Saquon put up monster receiving seasons when he was on the Giants. And I think Omarion Hampton, not capable of that level of production, but I do think he can probably get pretty close. And I'm really excited to see what he does in the Chargers situation. Sorry, I'm laughing at myself as I say that. But yeah, like with Mike McDaniel, we've seen, smaller, faster runners, Raheem Mostert, Achane, even like Jeff Wilson has some success with Mike McDaniel. So that kind of gives you an insight to what Omarion Hampton is going to be able to do. I do think like I said, I think he has that home run hitting ability. Not elite speed, but pretty damn good. Contact balance, really good. Vision, really good. Kind of just checks a whole lot of boxes for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It is tough to rank him individual situation for me just because it was so limiting last season just because their O-line it got so beat up. He got beat up and I just didn't know really where to put him. But I think that's a fair take. I think that's a little I wouldn't put him above Etienne because Etienne I've seen, right? Like Achane, I should say. I've seen. So I wouldn't necessarily be able to put him above them myself, but I think that's a fair take. I get where you're coming from, so I respect it 100%. Moving on, and we'll try to kind of get through these guys quick. We're almost an hour, and we got another 20 to 30 guys. So look, I'm setting a timer. We got like 30 seconds for each guy. So Jonathan Taylor, Sterb, what are your thoughts?
Really good. I think a little more situationally dependent. I'd probably put him right around there. Yeah. Not above.
No. I was
settle down there.
I was using the mouse pad.
That better have been a misclick. Yeah, I do think he slots in between Bijan and Achane. I don't know if I put him in S or A tier. I kind of want to see how they shake out.
Interesting.
But obviously, like through 8 or 9 weeks, whatever it was last season, like he was insane. I think he had more 3 touchdown games than 0 touchdown games, which is nuts.
He's
But
great.
yeah, like you put this guy in a good situation and pretty much just, or not even like a good situation, like a top 10 to 15 ish sort of situation, and you just pretty much let him run free, and he's going to be a demon for you. Um, but yeah, he's not like completely insulated from bad supporting casts, like say a Bijan. Um, but yeah, I do think he's a very good running back, obviously. So
Yeah, he's just so efficient. He can make absolutely insane highlight plays. He can hit home runs. I'm putting him there in the S tier just because I do think, I think he is that guy when he's healthy, and I want to see him, if he stays healthy again, I think he can be a top 3 running back again. So I'd put him in the S tier, but again, like you said, it kind of depends, and it depends on the quarterback situation too. If Daniel Jones starts stinging again, and you're just going to be able to load the box, like that's going to significantly limit his ability. Because I think that the Colts are also banking significantly on Alec Pierce being healthy and these receivers showing anything. Tyler Warren obviously is there too still. But I mean, if the receivers end up not being good and you really do not have to worry about that facet of the game, you're able to limit him so much. So I like Jonathan Taylor. I think he's S tier, but his situation kind of hurts him a little bit in my eyes. But I don't mind. I'd put him in S tier. Moving on to Quinshawn Judkins here. I'd put him right below Hampton, another guy that I think injuries kind of were like, he just suffered a bone break in his leg, similar to Scat. And it might limit him this upcoming season. I don't think it will necessarily. I think he still will be, I think he'll be back to what he should be. And I think what he should be and what he can be is a really, really solid runner. We saw it when he was able to run and play in a Browns team that had Shedeur Sanders. The teams were not worried about their pass game. They were feeding him the ball. Even then in the red zone, they were going wildcat, and he was getting touchdowns from 6 yards deep, 6 yards from the end zone out of wildcat, where you knew he wasn't throwing the football, and he was still able to power through guys and get in. So this season, if he is healthy, I think you could see going up into that B tier, maybe even higher than that. But I just putting him there just because of the injury in this past season. What are your thoughts, Sterb?
yeah, this is probably the guy that I have higher than consensus, than pretty much any other running back.
Yeah.
For reference, I would probably put him probably above Brees. And that may be like a little hot takey. But what he showed last season is honestly
It was
kind of
insane
to go back and watch. Like if you imagine like a single running back play of like 0th percentile is like, a bad rep from a backup level running back and he fumbles the ball or whatever. And then 100th percentile is like Jahmyr Gibbs breaking off an 80-yard touchdown. Quinshawn is pretty consistently above that 50th percentile and often at that 70th or 75th percentile of any given play. And like we said, the Browns offensive line last year was not good. The Browns weapons last year were not good. And we know damn well that the Browns quarterback situation was not good. And it's probably going to be that way again, unfortunately for Quinshawn. So he faced stacked boxes, which is 8 or more defenders, 45.2% of the time.
Yeah.
Second highest was Derrick Henry at 39.1%. And league average is around 27-ish. So he's facing stacked boxes pretty much at double the rate of anyone else. That is insane to think about. And then you think about this guy like not being considered elite as a pass catcher. He pretty much has to run through all of those guys' faces that he's stacked against in the box.
Yeah.
And he still does it. Like I do think we are seeing probably like a top 5 runner in the NFL kind of emerge here. Like I am very, very high on what he can be as a player. And, he is on the Browns, which is unfortunate. So are we ever going to see like a top 5 statistical output season from him? I don't know. But independent of his situation, I think this guy is pretty much as bulletproof as a young runner that you can get. And there's really not many guys I take over him as like a pure runner if I'm starting, a team building up from the ground up. So.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, I think it's the injury that really scares me the most because he is going to be.
It was a bone break though. Like it wasn't any soft tissue. I don't think
He should be fine. But I just want to see him come back, and I think he will be able to. Like I said, and like you said, yeah, him facing loaded box. I think that's that tells you all you need to know about that.
45% is insane.
It's absurd. I mean, that tells you all you have to know about what the Browns' offense was last year. I mean, quarterback wise and passing wise, like they were the only real thing that you were worried about was Quinn beating you. Maybe Harold Fannin you had to worry about in like a crossing route every once in a while and breaking some tackles, but there really was not much that defenses were worried about other than Quinn. Moving on here, I'll skip probably the next 5 guys, 6. I'm going to skip to the next starter just because we're a little bit behind, and maybe we'll come back to these RB2s. I'm going to ask you, Sterb, do you think Bill will be, or Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, do you think he will be the starting running back for the Commanders, and where would you rank him if he is?
Yeah, I would put him as a starter, especially if like you're considering starter the early down runners as they tend to be. Like if you have a 50-50 split backfield, then the starter is going to play the first down. Obviously, that's normally what they're considered to be. Where I would put him, I don't really know if he belongs in the F tier because like I do think he showed a lot of flashes last season. And, when Jaden was in and out, obviously that's going to do a lot for the run game. And that team just kind of just ran out of steam for like a lot of last year. But, he had a few like awesome games. Also, that is Brian Robinson, by the way. That is not Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt.
Is it really? That's a bad look.
Is Ja'Cory on here?
He might not be. I don't
think he's on here. All right, well, we'll have to put Brian Robinson on there for him. But I do think Bill is probably a bit of a post-hype sleeper candidate. I think he's very overhated, just because there was like a big train for him last year that just kind of fizzled out, like the Commanders did as a whole. But yeah, I'm higher on him than consensus, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you here. This is like very disrespectful that they don't have him on. They also didn't have any of the Jaguars guys. We didn't make this team maker. So they didn't have the Jaguars guys, and they don't have Bill. And for all the Bill truthers out there, I am one of them. I see you and I respect you and I am with you because I love Bill myself.
He is good. He's not a bad player.
Yeah, like I genuinely think that he could have a lot of flash this season if he becomes that RB1 for them. And I think I saw a few videos from camp. It looks like he either slimmed up or just built like some muscle mass. And if he did that and he's still as athletic as he was, I think he could truly be like a really solid. I would have him play above Warren, honestly, just because he's still young. I'd put him like in that range in the D tier because I think he provides you with a lot of opportunities. So I like him a lot. I don't want to do this, but I guess I'll put Brian Robinson in that spot just because like they don't have Bill. But anyways, moving on, we have Derrick Henry next. He's older, so I want to put him kind of below Jeanty. But realistically, like he could be above both of those guys. He could still be in the
he's the GOAT, man. I've seen
like
enough.
He's
top of A for me, minimum.
He could be in the S tier just because you're like, all right, we're gonna put Derrick Henry here, stop him, like just stop him, just try. Yeah. And what shocked me was that the Ravens took so long to realize this. What the hell were they doing? I don't understand when every single fan in the stadium can just say, hey, maybe running Derrick Henry here at the ends at the red zone in this situation would be nice. Yes, he had a few big fumbles that lost them a game or two, but he also won them so many games because of his ability as a runner and just saying, yeah, you're not tackling me, to so many players on the defense that, I'd be fine putting him as high as below JT in the S tier or at the top of the A tier, just because he is so good. But his age, it worries me a little bit. When is he going to finally fall off a little bit? When is it going to happen? Because he's getting up there, and I don't know. I'll put him there, but I think anything higher than that below JT, I'm fine with. But
yeah, age cliff candidate, 4 years in the running here.
Exactly.
But yeah, I understand it. Like, he is getting older. For me, he would be minimum above. Well, I guess he's between JT and Achane. I don't know if I put him in S or A tier. Just because, like, I do think, like, Bijan's receiving ability, like, I don't know if he belongs in the same tier as him. But yeah, he's absolutely awesome. Like, he was second in stack boxes faced. And I know we're talking about real life, not fantasy here, but like there are some times, like I had Derrick Henry on both of my main fantasy teams last year, and there were times where I was like, okay, I just solved fantasy football. I have Derrick Henry on my team. Like, that's pretty much all I need. If you had him in championship week, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, he's awesome. Like, it kind of just feels like the I'm forgetting the meme, but it's like, we may never die or we may never lose again. It's like the Athletics banner that they're hanging in the Moneyball movie. But like, that's literally what it feels like when you have Derrick Henry on your fantasy team, or Derrick Henry in real life. Like, he's awesome, man.
Well, when the Ravens realize that they can use him properly, he just becomes the GOAT. Like, it's just it was crazy that they just, I don't know. If you have
shout
that
out
on
the Packers
your team,
for letting him do that, by the way. That was awesome.
I'm not saying anything about that. I don't want to receive more hate than I moving on, I'll skip Stevenson, even though we could possibly rank him at the end. We're gonna move right to Jeremiah Love here. Sterb, what are your thoughts on Jeremiah Love?
Yeah, this is interesting, because obviously we think he's, like I mentioned, with like number one overall RB prospects, or not number one overall, but like highly touted RB prospects. Most of the time we are right. Like, there are very, very few exceptions. I think Jeremiah Love is the next coming of that, even if I don't think he's by definition generational. But anyways, I think he is going to be very, very good. He's probably going to be in the top 3 to 5 running backs for one cut and then home run ability. Like, that burst through the line of scrimmage, like immediately before, through, and then immediately after. I know it's in college, but it's probably going to be like one of the best in the NFL. Immediately just stepping in as a rookie, like, no development needed. He's also like crazy young. He's obviously got a lot of years on him. He's a rookie. So there is like best running back in the league potential, maybe if you don't consider Bijan. Where I would put him right now, though, like, again, we're trying to rank independent of the situation, but you can only be allowed to show so much even when you're on a team like the Cardinals. I'd say he's in A tier. I don't know exactly where he would be in A tier. I think definitely below Derrick Henry. I think just above CMC, I think, is fair. Two very, very different players. Like, the resume literally can't be further apart. But yeah, I mean, going to be an awesome runner, going to be an awesome receiver. It may look bad, week 6 when he's getting, 14 carries for 39 yards, and none of that is his fault. But whatever. I mean, he's obviously awesome. So,
and it was crazy to me how much his receiving ability was slept on through the draft process, and just like Notre Dame didn't really need him to be that, so they didn't make him do that. But he's going to be a guy that you talk about it a little bit with Bijan and some of the other guys. He will be a receiving threat. Like, he will be so good as a receiver that teams have to worry about so much more than just him in the run game. And I think that he's going to be so exciting. So I love him being in the A tier, even though we haven't seen him yet. I think that's the right spot. Moving on here to Jadarian Price. He's a guy that if we had a rookie tier, I would just kind of put him at the top of the rookie tier and rank him individually of all these other guys, because I really don't know in the NFL kind of what he will be. I'd put him, because Sterb, you and I were a little bit lower on him in the draft process. I put him at like the top of D, just like if I'm looking at it, like I'd put all those guys above him currently because I haven't seen him in the NFL. But if I could, I would just have him in a rookie tier separate. What are your thoughts? Where would you put
Yeah,
him?
I'm gonna be honest. Like I would probably put him dead last if I'm being honest.
In the D tier or in the F tier?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't shown the ability to even like take on a college workload.
Yeah,
We talk about like Trevion was sort of in that role, except he played more at Ohio State,
that's fair.
and was more efficient. All of these things, and I don't think like they even have had like the same level of traits as prospects. Like I don't
Yeah.
even think it's arguable that Trevion was a better prospect. And
Put him,
being a worse player in that similar mold, like I just don't think lends to being like a better running back than like say a Chuba Hubbard in the NFL. I get that he's young and he's a question mark, which can be intriguing. But there are so many question marks. It's not just like one question mark, like mystery box where you're going to get. It's like, okay, I don't know if he's good at this. I don't know if he's good at that. I don't know if he can ever do this. Yeah, he's incredibly overdrafted in terms of production, in terms of skill set, in terms of pretty much everything for being, a first round pick. I never would have touched him at 32, even if I needed a running back. But yeah, I've shown my grapes with him before. It's nothing new, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't really mind. I just, like we said, unknown going into the NFL, and he wasn't the most exciting first round running back I've seen. I didn't think he was a first round pick either. So we will see what ends up with him. Moving on, we got James Cook Sturb. Where would you have him?
Yeah, this is an interesting guy because he is, constantly at the top of like rushing totals. I think he led the league in rushing last year. I think he was top 3 in rushing the year before, or maybe top 5. But I do think he definitely does benefit from, probably one of the best offensive lines and one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL. Like that definitely does a lot for his efficiency. And then if you give one guy most of the volume like the Bills do, you're going to end up at volume numbers, which is why he consistently is at the top of those rushing totals numbers. I think he slots in at A tier. I don't know exactly where I'd put him. I think definitely below Derrick Henry. I
Really?
do think, yeah, I think so. I think Derrick Henry could, out efficiency him.
What do you think about his receiving ability, Cook?
Yeah, I think he's a good receiver. But he's not like an elite receiver or anything like that. I do think like they just kind of give him a lot of volume. Derrick Henry has shown more high end runs where it's like obvious that, any other running back is being taken down there, and Derrick Henry is just bigger than you, faster than you, stronger than you.
Yeah.
I don't know if we see that same like tackle breaking ability, an elite trait from James Cook. I think he's very good. I think his cutting ability is really, really good. Probably his best trait along with his vision.
Yeah.
But he's a really, really good guy for getting what's blocked in front of him. And then obviously he can make plays outside of that. But it's just, does he have the same kind of elite traits as the guys in front of him? I don't think so. Like,
Yeah.
I think he can point to the 5 guys that we just put above him and be like, okay, this is their elite trait that they are maybe the best at in the NFL. And James Cook just doesn't really have that.
Yeah. No, I'm fine with that. I would put James Cook probably above Jeanty, I think. I'd put him right there. Right. He's definitely the A tier. And with this list, the A list being so big, I'm going to bump Brees down to the top of
Yeah,
B.
I think so.
Keep it like this for now. And then we have a couple more guys to add here in a little bit. Saquon Barkley is our next guy. I'd put him above Jeanty, I think. I mean, we just saw him rush for over 2,000 yards. Yes, I think last season he took a little bit of a step back. I think that was more of situation and an offensive scheme just being kind of broken more than him. He's still so talented in both the run and pass game. He can make any move you need him to. He's a human joystick. I'd put him there. I really don't want to add too much because I think he is that talented, and I just don't think you need to add too much depth to the conversation around Saquon. But I think I put him near the top of A.
Yeah, I think I would put him definitely above Achane. I don't know if I'd put him in
That's
S
fair too.
tier,
Yeah,
just
I
because
think
of
he's
age.
kind of
But
stepped down a little bit, but
yeah,
either of those spots I'm fine with. Moving on with Josh Jacobs here, Sturb. What are your thoughts on him?
I got no idea. I'm gonna be honest. It's been a very, very confusing last year for Josh Jacobs. Like he's getting a lot of his workload eaten up. Matt LaFleur is like mysteriously not using him. And then obviously turns himself in this past like I don't know. I don't know. Talk about a guy that I'm just like not touching in fantasy. Like I just won't do it this year. Like someone else can draft him. If we're just strictly talking about in terms of on the field, though, he has been showing a bit of a decline. But he has been shown to be very, very reliable. Like I don't really know why LaFleur kind of went away from him. I do think LaFleur is very smart though, so I think he definitely has a reason. I don't think he belongs in the A tier anymore for that age concern. I think I think bottom of B.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to put. I think he's a good running back, especially when it comes to end zone touches. He will score a touchdown every game if you give him the ball down there. But
Just not
outside
a
of that,
receiving touchdown.
Yeah, he's not giving you receiving threat at all. Like he's losing his step a little bit. He doesn't have much home run ability anymore. I don't know. I think bottom of B is 100% fair. I would have said that as well. Hammer, if you're seeing this, comment whatever hate comments you want to say about us trashing. And not even trashing Josh Jacobs. They're just a little bit lower on him.
All these are fair concerns, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd put him there. I think he's still serviceable. I have him as my dynasty running back in one of my bigger leagues, and that scares me mightily because
like you're one.
Well, I have him and Chase Brown. So
you're good, bro. I'm sorry.
Chase Brown will be good in fantasy.
Pack it up.
Josh Jacobs, I'm worried about a little bit. I got to replace
Jeremiah Smith. Let's go. I'm kidding. But
the rest of my team is good. The rest of my team is solid. So, anyways, moving on, we got Kenneth Walker here. He's another guy. I'd probably put Kenneth Walker in the B tier. I think this might be a little bit crazy. I'd put him in the B tier. I think he's still a good running back, but I think he's not like. I'd put him below Brees because Brees is a little bit younger. I'd put him right next to him. If I'm being honest, like I'd be fine either or. I'd put him there. Sturb, what are your thoughts? I'd put him right below Brees in the B tier because I do think he is a really solid running back, a little bit lost in the receiving game, though. I don't think he provides you as much of a threat as a receiver. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it kind of sucks because I've been singing Kenneth Walker's praises since he came into the NFL, and now people are ranking him like top 6 after he won like Super Bowl MVP. I'm like, whoa, settle down a little bit. Like he's good, but like I said, I think he would be in this B tier. I'd probably put him above Brees.
Okay. That's fair.
He does have like some of the highest end missed tackle force ability in the NFL. But he does show some kind of mental lapses where you would rather him not bounce stuff. And like his vision is good, but his decision making with the vision isn't as up to par as you'd probably hope from an elite running back. Like I do think it was fair that he didn't get, just 85, 90% of the workload in Seattle. I do think he got less than he should have. But yeah, it just kind of sucks that like I have to be lower on Kenneth Walker than consensus now after being higher on him for like 3 years. But yeah.
What are your thoughts next? Moving on to Kyren Williams. What are your thoughts on him? He's an interesting guy.
Yeah. Talk about removing a guy from his fantasy situation. This is interesting. I think he would slot in just above Chase Brown in that C tier. And again, I would probably have Chase Brown a little lower. Actually, I don't know. But yeah, Kyren is just like he's clearly solid. Like he's not a bad running back.
Yeah.
Even though he does have like fumbling issues, he's he kind of just is his surroundings, if that makes sense. Whereas, if you have him in fantasy, you're getting the Rams offense. Like you're not just getting, oh,
Yeah.
this is Kyren Williams traits and uh, just pure him as a player. Like you're getting him in a Rams offense. So it's obviously very good. But like how many other running backs could do it in his situation? I think quite a lot. Like Blake Corum as a runner, I think is probably better than Kyren Williams as an overall player. Probably not. Kyren's better in pass pro. Kyren's better as a pass catcher. But I do think like Blake Corum is probably coming. But I'm bigger on Blake Corum than most.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to Kyren. Like he kind of just is like C plus at everything. And that kind of just like slots him in the C tier. He can be very, very frustrating at moments, especially if like you're a Rams fan, because you have a Death Star offense, like, and the weak point is like Kyren Williams there. It's like the military guys and then the clown after him. Like that can be Kyren Williams at times on the Rams.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, okay, don't lose us a game. But yeah, I think for fantasy, obviously, like I would take him higher than this, just
I
because he
agree.
is on
Yeah.
that Rams offense. But yeah,
Yeah, I'd have him right in that same spot. I think it's just,
okay,
I think Kyren, I've had him in a couple fantasy leagues. I like him for fantasy value, but like you said, just as a running back himself, I'm not putting him above the guys probably in the same range. I mean, maybe like Swift, Scat, depending on how he comes back from injury, maybe you put him above those guys, but all of the other guys above him, I think, are solidly better than him. Moving on, we have Jahmyr Gibbs as our last running back to rank.
bottom of F,
Bottom of F tier, obviously.
terrible.
I'd put him above JT in the S tier. He is a guy, one of the best home run hitters in the league. Great speed, great receiving ability. He was the guy that I wanted to be the Alvin Kamara successor more than anything else in the world. When he came into the draft, I was like, I'd be fine with the Saints taking him with their first. I wanted him so badly. I had such a big draft crush on him just because you could see it on tape how good he was going to be. There were people that didn't believe in it, like it didn't believe in him on the draft night and everything like that. They're like, oh, how did he go in the first? Things like that. I'm like, dude, he's going to be that guy. Like he has everything you could possibly want in a running back. And I'm so happy that the Lions got him and found their guy and that it paid off for them getting that guy in the first round because they did receive hate for that. And it was an FU to everyone else in the league. Like, yeah, this is who we thought we were getting. And I love Jahmyr Gibbs. If I could, I would have him in every fantasy league. So top of S tier, slightly below Bijan. That's where I would have him. Any disagreements there, Sterb?
No, I think he's pretty solidified the number 2 running back in the NFL. I remember just even watching him as a rookie when he was, to some people, frustratingly not getting a whole ton of volume in the first half of his rookie year. Obviously, the second half of his rookie year ends up being pretty awesome. But like on those limited carries, he is making cuts and making dudes miss when they are literally fingertips length away from him. Like he's the definition of making guys miss in a phone booth, and that cut ability along with the home run hitting speed, like he just absolutely eliminates any tackling angles by safeties or linebackers or whoever it may be. And like we talk about with Jeremiah Love, like immediately before at the line of scrimmage and then immediately after the line of scrimmage, like Jahmyr Gibbs is currently the best in the NFL at that. In terms of his ability to get skinny, cut at full speed and then just, slingshot through the hole and he's gone for 80-yard touchdown. So yeah, I think it's pretty hard to argue him being not a top 2 running back in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And none of these other guys I think are really worth ranking on this list. Would you update any of the tiers we have? I think really the only thing I would maybe do is just clean up. I maybe would move Montgomery down to the top of F and like C-Mac down to the top of B. just to like
I
make it
think
look
both
a
of
little
those
bit more
guys are
even.
good where they're at. Like
Yeah,
I
I'm
would
not
put
fixated on it.
the moves that I feel strongly about the most, obviously, like I mentioned, I'm higher on Omarion and Quinshawn, but I
Yeah.
realize I'm the outlier in that. I think Saquon should be above Achane, and then I think Derrick Henry should
Okay.
probably be above Ashton Jeanty. Like those
I'm
are
fine with
the
both
two
those.
that
Let me do that.
kind of stick out to me. Other
Okay.
than that, I think it's pretty fair. And also, like I would put David Montgomery above Jadarian as well.
Yeah,
But
I'm fine with that because
yeah,
we've seen him. We've seen
yeah,
him on him. I think that's fine.
yeah.
Yeah, and Montgomery can break tackles more than Price, from at least what we've seen. Price it doesn't have the contact balance, and I'm really surprised. I don't want to get into that, but I'm really surprised he went as high as he did. But anyways, that will do it for running back tiers episode. You guys know what to do. Comment down below what you think about our tiers, what you think about all these players. If you guys disagree, or if you guys want to add some of these guys we didn't tier, tell us where you would put those guys that we didn't. Obviously, we have the unction going down there with Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara down at the start of those guys that we unranked. But yeah, we don't have time to kind of rank all of those guys, because if we did have time, we would go through it all. But we're already at an hour and a half, and we didn't do that. So that'll do it for running back tiers episode. You guys know what to do. Comment down below, like and comment and subscribe. And you guys know where to find us at social media at Jenks Island, wherever you get your podcast at Jenks Island as well. We'll see you guys next week.